even in like narrative, like fiction screenwriting and stuff like that, they always tell you like you know where your story is beginning and you need to know where it's ending. If you know all of that, everything in between goes so much smoother. And I think it's like kind of cyclical. It's the same thing here in production too. It's like if you know where you're going in post and you plan for it in production, pre-production, you're going to be in such a better shape the whole way through because you're doing everything with intent in mind.
You are listening to Talk Doc to Me, a podcast and community dedicated to helping documentary filmmakers thrive. I'm your host and fellow filmmaker, Leah DeLeon, and today's guest is Kennon Fleisher. Kennon is a creative director and co-founder of Kinesis, a post-production powerhouse for film and TV that is made up of experts in motion design, visual effects, and creative development. You maybe have seen his work in documentaries on Netflix and Hulu like Thank You, Goodnight, the Bon Jovi Story, or In the Arena, Serena Williams, or Enigma, Aaron Rodgers. Today, we are discussing his path to starting his studio, the do's and don'ts of hiring motion designers, and what it's like working for big streamers. Kennon, it's so great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to do this and to have a chance to talk about all this with you.
Love it. Okay, so I want to start with your path first. So can you take me back to your earliest memory of being interested in motion design?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that really kind of started. It kind of all started with just like a general interest in being creative, like way back. Like it was actually like when I picked up my first like high 8 camera way back in the day. I was like skating around with my friends and filming every single thing that we did, and we were making skate films and like just constantly trying to push the production value of that stuff. And that's whenever I first discovered After Effects and Premiere and everything else, and started kind of dabbling in all of that and realizing how that kind of thing could like push and enhance the production value of something, even within documentaries and long form kind of content. So that's really kind of where it started, was like this just general interest in filmmaking and documentary filmmaking to an extent, because it was, documenting, even if it was just me, skateboarding with my friends, felt like documentary style. So
for sure, observational home movies. Everyone has to start with like their family and friends first.
Yeah.
What was like a first project where you felt like, oh, like I have a knack for this? Like, maybe you're opening up the software or you create something amazing. And you're like, wow, like I did that.
Yeah. I mean, so really it wasn't, honestly, it's funny because like I didn't know that I had a knack for it. I really didn't. Like I just kind of crash landed into doing it every time until I had my first job when I was like 20. And the guy who ran this small studio I worked at came to me and asked if I was good with After Effects. They had this really big project coming in, and I just said yes without really thinking about it. And I really at that point hadn't done it professionally, but it was funny because I was staying up for like 2 weeks leading up to that project. I was staying up all night, every night, just cramming tutorials, learning as much as I could. And then we got into the project, and I was like, I had learned enough and armed myself with enough like self-education that it was feeling kind of fun and it was working. And it kind of clicked during that project. Like I threw myself into it, not really realizing that like I was going to like it as much as I did, but it ended up becoming a really like kind of transitional, pivotal thing for me in my career, because I realized how much I enjoyed doing it. So in a way, it was kind of an accident.
Nice. You said yes and you figured it out,
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, and that happens sometimes too. You never really know. Like sometimes you have to just throw yourself in and kind of go for it. So
nice. So once you had that experience, you're like, okay, I have this knack for it maybe. And thinking about maybe some other filmmakers that might be at that spot where they're like kind of interested in it. Maybe they've tried like one thing before. They're thinking, oh, maybe I want to, specialize in this. How do you recommend filmmakers get experience in motion design? Like what are some tips that you have?
yeah, honestly, I think that kind of what I was just saying too. Just you got to just try. I think it's important to download After Effects. Like most of us, if we're involved in doing this, we have Adobe products and everything, and it comes along with it. So I would just encourage anybody who's interested in it to download the application and just start trying to make something from scratch. Like jump in and figure out how to like navigate the application, find a tutorial for something that you want to do, and just do it. I think it comes with a lot of self-starting and self-education, and really there's just tons of resources out there to do it, like through YouTube, and there's plenty of online courses that you can take and everything else. One thing I personally wouldn't recommend is spending a bunch of money to go to school for it until you've actually like tried to do it for a little while and applied it to things and just see if it's something you really do want to do. But yeah, I mean, I would always encourage people to just jump in and give it a shot. There's plenty of ways to learn, and plenty of people to like reach out to on social media and everything else that it's like it's a community of creative people who will really like respond and give you tips and advice if you need it. So yeah,
Just start
there's
doing
no
it.
shortage of resources. Yeah, no shortage of resources to start doing it, essentially. I think that if anybody wants to do it, they should. So
Nice. And what about post-production? Like, why are you passionate about post now?
it's interesting because like I've worked in all aspects of production. So like I shoot, direct, edit, all that stuff. But what I really like about post production is that like it gives you kind of this superpower of hindsight, and it actually like feeds your ability and intuition when you're in production as well, because you kind of know what's coming at the end of things. You have this gift of being able to see how things got from A to B. So that's what I've always really liked about it. I also really kind of just like it feels like somebody brings you a block of clay and you're able to like sculpt it into something really beautiful at the end. Like I love getting, for example, I love seeing log footage that's shot well and being able to apply a color pass and a LUT and some looks to it and things like that and just really shape it into what it's going to be. It's just there's something really nice about that, because it's always like this reaction that you get from the director or the showrunner or whoever else when they see it, that they're like, oh, that's what it's going to look like. And it's like this aha moment where it's like putting the icing on the cake and just like really giving it that something special. So that's what I've always really liked about post. And another really special aspect of working in post is like these days you can kind of do it from anywhere. So you can be a remote worker in Denver, where I'm at now, and be working on stuff in LA or New York or London or wherever. So there's a lot of special aspects about working in post, but those are kind of a couple of my favorite.
Nice. What do you think about the common phrase that we all know, which is, we'll fix it in post?
I knew that was coming. I hate that term. I mean, it's true. There's a lot that can be fixed in post, and it gets easier all the time. And I still encourage people to try to do it right in production the first time, just because, it's just so much easier to like, I think there's a lot of magic that can happen in post when we're not just fixing things, like there's a lot of things we could be spending our time on to make things better rather than cleaning up. But I mean, it is what it is. That's an aspect of the industry, and it fuels a lot of jobs. So like, it's it can be good, I guess, but it's I always encourage fix it in pre-production, fix it in camera if you can.
Nice.
And then
Classic.
bring me that, and then we'll do something with that. So
Nice.
yeah.
So I want to jump to the origin story of Kinesis and how you work with your partner, Corinne. Can you tell me
Yeah.
about some of those initial conversations of, starting the company together?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really started because, I was working at other studios, agencies. I was in-house at a gaming company called Bungie. So I was kind of like across different industries really, and doing all these different things, and kind of amassing a lot of contacts and people who were more and more wanting to work directly with me, and not because they didn't like the other studios or agencies or whatever, but just because of building relationships with them. And it got to a point where I was working so long of hours and such long days at these other studios and agencies that it was just like, it was killing my work-life balance. I mean, it was really bad. At some points I was working 14, 16-hour days. There was a pitch that I was up till like 2 in the morning for every single night for like a week straight. And so it was like, there was this moment where I was like, I can't do that. It's not sustainable forever. It's not like a sustainable path to continue doing that. So I decided I was going to start my own thing, try to get a project, and see how, just put myself into it as much as I could, make that as good as possible. And then while we were doing that, start pitching other work. And so we did that, and at the same time I was still doing some of the other stuff, and I was like, I knew that it was going to require me to have even worse of a work-life balance for a minute, but to have that overlap. But then it slowly started to like build, and I was able to kind of like jump off the diving board into the pool, so to speak. And yeah, so that's kind of how it happened. I like by proxy of just like working at these other places, I was building relationships and kind of meeting people, and they kind of followed me once I started this thing. And Corinne, she was working at a job for a mental health tech startup, and she was enjoying what she was doing, but it wasn't like fully what she wanted to do. And so I always joke and I tell people that I fired her from that job and pulled her in because I
Yeah.
because I was
You
just like,
poached her.
you gotta come do this with me because yeah, exactly. I mean, so like I have such a creative brain, and like I do have like what's unique, I think, not a humble brag about myself, is I have like that producer brain too, so I kind of get both aspects of it. But like running a business is different, you know. When you're working somewhere and you have that brain, that's fine because there's still other people around you. But when you jump into doing your own thing and that's what you're doing, you need support. So like I'm leaning more into my strength of being a creative, and she's very analytical and very very like good with organization and things like that. So her brain works in that way, and I was like, you know, she started recommending different systems and approaches for things from that side of things, and I was like, why don't you just like come work with me on this stuff? And you know, that's what we did. So she jumped in and started doing that with me, and we're just like a really good duo in terms of doing that kind of stuff and keeping each other balanced. And she has a creative brain too, so it's really nice because like we can feed ideas back and forth, business wise and creative wise. So yeah, I mean, not everybody has like a partner, like a wife, a husband, a partner that they can run something with, but and not everybody recommends it either. But I actually have found that it's like really awesome because we found a way to compartmentalize that as like we do our work, and then at the end of the day, like, you know, we'll still talk about creative things and whatever, but we have a way to put it away. And it's really interesting because we have like a shared passion now, and it's like, if anything, it's like starting the business has been awesome, and I really love it, but it's also like really helped our relationship grow in this new and kind of like fun way. So yeah, I mean, it has challenges for the business and even in the relationship. Like you get frustrated with each other sometimes, but it's not like personal.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you learn how to put it away as not like personal, you know?
How
So
long have you been
it's a
working
very
together now?
interesting thing.
How long have you been working together?
2 years, about two
Okay,
years.
impressive. I'm like, wow, you're
Just
talking like you're able to like put this away, and I'm like, oh, I've been working with my husband Matt for like what now, like 7 years. I'm like, I feel like we are still like always learning, always adapting. But I'm curious, like you
yeah.
said like, okay, there's a way that you can kind of like tuck it away. Is there like a time cutoff? Is there like a like how are you doing this?
It ebbs and flows too. That's just it.
Yeah,
Like
it ebbs
we're
and
not
flows.
perfect,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's yeah, and I think that it's cool. I try to appreciate it is all. And I think what's really interesting, and this is just like a physical space thing for me too. Like our house is like a townhouse, and we're divided into 3 floors. So like down here on the first floor is our office, and this is where we have our work. And sometimes that migrates to the second floor, but we try to keep it away from there. And then the third floor is where the bedrooms are, and we go up there, and it's like, just like once we're up there, leave it downstairs. And you know, occasionally like the email will sneak in, and we like say something
Yeah,
or
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about it or whatever. But we try to separate it physically, and like into a space, and that actually then mentally helps to compartmentalize it in a way too. So, um, not everybody has that kind of a like situation, but I think that you can do that regardless. You can find a way to like once the laptop is
Yeah.
closed or whatever, okay, let's let's do something else. Let's focus on something else for now. Like let's make dinner, let's do something completely different. Um but I think it's also important still, like as much as you try to do that, you still have to find room to give the other person space if they need to vent about something or
Mm-hmm.
talk or whatever else. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing. Like, and to be honest, I didn't see our conversation going this way, but like I do, I'm even realizing as we're talking about it, that running the company and our relationship have been like amplifying each other
Mm.
in really positive ways. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thread to pull
No,
on.
that's awesome. I think it is true because you have a shared passion. So when it's going like certain unlocks in the business will have certain unlocks in your personal life or vice versa. But I think you're totally onto something with like the physical spaces. I think like we have a home office, like I think the levels maybe is a little bit easier, but I've even like mentally been like, okay, like we close the office door, or like, just certain things that it's like a cue, or like sometimes I wear these like blue light glasses and I'm like, okay, I'm like working. It's like a visual, physical
Yeah.
like reminder. And then when I'm like, okay, like I'm home now, I'll like take them off. It's like small things like that that
Yeah.
like actually can cue your brain to like wear the different hat.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It's and you just have to kind of find what works for
Yeah.
you, and it changes over time and everything else. And yeah, I mean, I find that during busier times it's actually easier for some reason
Mm,
because I'm more excited to like at the end of the busy day to like kind of cut it off.
yeah.
It's like right now we're going through this period where like the beginning of the year is always really like interesting because you're setting up new projects and holding
Mm.
new calls and different things like that. So what ends up happening is I take my laptop upstairs, I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm like, wait, this is for downstairs.
Uh,
It's harder to kind of separate it. So it's I don't know. I mean, it works in
Ebbs
different
and
ways, I
flows,
guess.
ebbs and flows.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
exactly.
Okay, I want to switch gears to I think motion design and animation, a lot of people inside the industry and also outside of the industry kind of look at this like it's this elusive, like crazy atmosphere of like, okay, this person like sits down at their desk and does all these crazy things that none of us understand. But I know you make stuff pretty or you
Yeah.
make stuff look cool. So I'd love to just spend some time kind of demystifying the process a little bit. So in as like few steps as possible when you work with a director, for a documentary, let's say, an independent feature documentary, let's say. What are the steps to, from an idea to, full execution, like as simple as possible?
Yeah, for sure. So what ends up happening specifically to the documentary space, because motion design, as you said, it's a term that needs to be demystified. Like it can mean traditional 2D animation, it can mean 3D, it can mean all these different things, right? What we mean in terms of motion design and visual development and things like that in documentary series is we'll get like a cut, like a pretty early cut of an episode or a feature, whatever it is, and a lot of times it'll have just like the images flat in there, or they'll have like a garbage mat of like an article headline or something like that. And what they're showing and communicating to us is we want to see what it looks like if you do a design for that. How does it look when you treat a photo? What's like a mortise or a frame that it would look good inside of? And all these different kinds of things to give it like a visually connective tissue across the whole thing. Because especially in documentaries, we're looking at like archival footage that's like 4:3 shot on old cameras mixed with like this beautiful verite and like all these different formats that come together, and they don't really like they cut back to back, but sometimes that can feel a little bit harsh. So the way that we kind of frame it is like motion design in these series is like the way that you can bring it all together through like it's kind of like a visual branding almost, right? So like it's a theme, it's like a spine for everything to kind of live on. So uh it's not just but it's not just really like being told to like make it look pretty. We also want to like find ways to give it like some kind of meaning to when we can. But yeah, so I think that the thing is like you're trying to find a way to add meaning to it and layer the story rather than just making like a pretty design or a nice design or whatever that looks visually great or whatever. I think that it's a powerful way to kind of amplify the story, so to speak. You can really work with the directors and showrunners to figure out what that stuff is too. And I think that it's like the more tactile and the more human type of elements you can bring into it, the better. Um, so that's kind of what I mean there is like it's a way to like build all these different designs out and really just like create a visual aesthetic for the show. It's world building in a way,
Yeah.
right? Like it's a way to establish like this world that we're stepping into. And if I were to give you like an example of that for like Thank You Goodnight, the Bon Jovi story, we found a lot of old like concert tickets and textures and like flyers and different things that we could scan in that would like make you feel like you're part of that world. And like the series actually started off, the reason we went with that was because the series started off with John going into his basement in his home in New Jersey and digging through his archival stuff. And so we were like, oh, we're like we want the design and everything to feel like you're digging into that archival with him. You're in there with him. You're seeing stuff that's never been seen before. He's opening the box and he's showing you the old stuff. And we're like, we need to really live in that space that feels like tactile, and like you're being shown something that has never been unarchived before or whatever. So it's a way to do that kind of thing. It's just I think it has varying levels of capability to layer the story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Layers, concert tickets, photos. I think that's really cool. Um,
yeah.
so in that example, or like in general speaking, like a director comes to you, they're like, okay, I have all these placeholder things. I have my title, I have some archival that needs some treatment, and maybe like, yeah, like newspaper clippings, let's say. Um, at, then what happens there? Is it kind of like a creative discussion, and then maybe you put together like a rough plan from there?
Yeah, so as far as the process goes, uh, the process to actually do all of that is it's a bit of a back and forth. So they come to you and they say, here's what everything is. What are your ideas? And the first thing you usually do, like on a bigger series, is you start pulling references. You have conversations with them about what they like, what they don't like. And then you'll kind of put together like a deck of ideas and categorize what that is. So you'll say, here's articles and headlines. Here's some different designs that we've come up with. Here's what archival treatments might look like. Here's some font explorations and different things like that. And you pass that back to them, and you just kind of pass that ball back and forth a little bit to kind of work out what is or is not working. And from there, it's like, you zero in on zero in on an idea, and then you start to kind of show them what animations look like and how that fits into the edit. And then once they're feeling good about all that, they'll pass you a rough cut, and you start to time things out and build it out for that. And there's a little bit of back and forth there with the editors too, but it's kind of, again, I think it's a really collaborative process, and I think there's a lot of back and forth there. But the core of what makes it work really well is like early on ideation, conversations, reference pulling. There's a lot of Pinterest and Behance and different things like that, Instagram. So yeah, and sometimes it's literally just showing different textures and things like that that they want to see, or like a vibe overall. Um, some directors are really prescriptive and they really know what they want, and others give you a lot of room to play and do whatever you want. So that's where I think we thrive the most, just because we have a really good intuition and sense of like what is going to make the piece work. Sometimes the designs are really in depth and they have a lot going on, and other times they just need to be simple in order to let the story do the heavy lifting. Like sometimes you do just need a simple move or a simple layout or a simple design to make things uh, feel cohesive visually, but the story is still what we're focusing on. It's just it varies. It depends on the project really, and the director and the team and really the editor as well.
Hmm. I'm imagining like, is it ever too early to start that early ideation? Because to your point, like there is so much back and forth. I feel like maybe some people feel like, oh, like I'm at a rough cut. Like I know I want to hire, or I want animation, but I don't really know what it is, right? Because that's not their expertise. And maybe that like hesitation makes them not want to reach out, or they think, oh my God, it's so expensive, or I don't even, they're
Yep.
kind of scared to even take that first step. Like what do you think, it's ever too early to start a conversation with a motion designer?
No, and in fact, that's a really good question, because we're always advocating for people to start talking about it in pre-production, and that's actually something we're doing that other companies don't do a lot. Is like we're starting to reach out to people we want to work with and offering what we're calling creative investments into projects that we want to be part of. So what I mean by that is like when they're pitching the show to Netflix, to Hulu, or whoever to get funding, or they're just trying to get this thing off the ground in development, we want to come in and offer some early ideation of what that could look like, because I think it really significantly raises the production value, and it helps them understand how they can bring things together in post. There's so many times in these stories where like a moment doesn't exist either. Like it needs to be created through imagery or 3D or whatever else, like an abstraction of sorts. So that's where I think it really helps to engage with a company who does motion design, or a motion designer or whoever, that can kind of bring some of those ideas to the table to help tell the story better. And the earlier you do it, I think the better. Like everybody does get the idea that it's too expensive, but to me, it's like I think it's actually like it's such a key thing. I watch so many series that I'm like, if they just would have put some more time into this, it could be even better. Just because I know what it brings visually, and like a lot of people don't know how to articulate it, but I know that they feel it. They know that this brings a lot to the table. That's one of the problems too. Is like in terms of when we're talking about it being too expensive, is like it's really hard to tell somebody if you spend $1 on this, we can give you two back. Like it seems like such a luxury item, you know, but it really is so important in making things feel like they're of a high production value. And yeah, so just wrapping it all back into a series of points here, I think it's never too early. I think having kind of that post production mindset, knowing where you're going with it, and having some ideation early on really, really sets you up for success in terms of having a visual aesthetic and a storytelling device and layering the story and planning for it. I mean, even stuff as simple as lower thirds. Do you frame up your subject in the center and you didn't give enough room down here for the lower third without overlapping? Or like, do you push them over slightly for a shot, you know, just so you have that room? Or maybe it's framed up next to them. Like you're kind of thinking in a different way, but it makes such a difference. It makes such a difference whenever you see it then, because like subconsciously, all these thoughts go through your mind that they did that with intention. The director knew what they were doing. They had an intention behind that shot. They knew that they were going to put that there. They knew where they were going to do that look or effect or treatment. So yeah, I mean, I think it just to me it speaks to a higher level of experience across the crew. When I see it's really well done in a series, I'm like, oh, they really knew what they were doing. They thought about it. It's a different level of expertise in my opinion.
Yes, and it's like
But
beginning with the end in mind. I
yeah,
feel like
yeah,
that's
that's just it. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, that's such a core principle too. I mean, like even in like narrative, like fiction screenwriting and stuff like that, they always tell you like where your story is beginning and you need to know where it's ending. If you know all of that, everything in between goes so much smoother. And I think it's like kind of cyclical. It's the same thing here in production too. It's like if you know where you're going in post and you plan for it in production, pre-production, you're going to be in such a better shape the whole way through because you're doing everything with intent in mind. And yeah, I mean, I just think it's super super important to do it early on if possible.
Nice, nice. Um, in thinking of building that world, right? Like, what are some things that, a director can think about while they're developing a project? Maybe we can like list them off, like, lower thirds, archival treatment, like fonts, colors, like what are some things that
Yeah.
if they wanted to come to a conversation early in development or even, in production, have a good conversation with a motion designer, what are those things that can help anchor, the creative initial brainstorming?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think in terms of like bringing the conversation to a motion designer, it's like they need to kind of know what the story is they're telling and what elements they're going to be using. So in the case of like, I want to use a, can I use an example?
Yeah,
Would that
yeah, yeah,
help?
yeah.
Okay, so for Serena Williams, for example, like we knew that there was going to be a lot of archival. We knew there was going to be a ton of articles, all kinds of footage from the 90s and all kinds of things. And so, they come to us with a list of things that they're going to need. There's articles, lower thirds, chapter cards, timelines, even like we're looking back at her childhood and there's footage and moments that don't exist, but we need something to show it. So what can we do with 3D? What can we do with bespoke treatments and bespoke moments that we can actually generate on our own? So we did a lot of that kind of stuff in there too. And so I think that that's something that you can go to them early on and say, we know that we want to tell this story. We don't have footage for Serena Williams listening to Green Day when she was in high school, for example. So what can we do there? What can we do creatively? So then that's something a motion designer can look at and go, oh, I have this idea. What if we have like a tennis rack bag and it has like a patch on it, a Green Day patch on it. We just show like an angle of that and we render that out and we cut that in. That's kind of cool. And it tells the story. It helps layer it. And that moment didn't exist, but now it does. So we helped create that moment, tell that story. That was something that we collaborated with on that project. So it's moments like that where like it's a collaboration between the director and whoever they're working with to build a moment like that. Like Serena Williams tennis bag with a Green Day patch sewn onto it to show that she was a big Green Day fan in high school. Something like that is a moment that didn't exist, and now it does because it was made by a team of motion designers who can help illustrate create that moment fully out of nothing, you know? So I think that that kind of stuff is really important to know early on in the process, that you want to do that kind of thing and create the time and the space for somebody to make it, because I think it can really add value to the story. And again, it's not just so that it's like a nice, pretty looking moment in the series. It's so that it can help layer the story and bring you into like an authentic, relatable, human kind of moment, you know?
Yeah. What I'm
So
here
that's
what I'm hearing is like it all I mean everything comes down to story, but I feel like at least in my own experience, I feel like I'm totally guilty of like not reaching out to people early enough, thinking that I need to have my ducks in a row like better. Like I need to have this like crazy creative brief and like know exactly what I want and have the perfect reference and all these things. And I feel
sure.
like after listening to you talk, it's like you guys are like creative problem solvers, and it's like okay, if you have a rough cut, or even at the beginning generally what you're thinking, as long as you can explain that, then you can kind of hand it off to you and say, hey, what are your thoughts here, what are your ideas, and you don't always feel like you have to like have everything figured out before working
Yeah.
with a motion designer.
Yeah, and that's actually a really, really good example too, that leads into how I worked on the Tom Brady series we did. Whenever I was at Elastic, this studio in LA, we got the early cut of the first episode, and excuse me, we got the early cut of the first episode, and it was basically just Tom on camera talking. And they were like, we don't know what we want to fill in these big like black spots with, like these gaps of like no footage and whatever else. So they were like, help us like kind of ideate on some things. And I didn't know how far they wanted me to go with it, so I actually and I'm a big football fan, so I went online and like I just started pulling images, and I was making timelines and like finding stock footage, and I was just plugging things in, and I was just trying to come up with this like idea where I was like, okay, all we have right now is Tom on camera, but he's talking about it from his memory. So I started stylizing it in this way, that with like this kind of bluish, dreamy looking treatment to the whole thing, where it was like my idea was we're in Tom's headspace. We're like going into his memories, and we're like seeing kind of through the haze of his memories what all these pockets of time and moments felt like. And they, we bounced that back to them, and they were like, oh, this is great, we're still going to be shooting more and adding more, so some of this might have to get cut, but we really like this idea. So by doing that like early back and forth process, this is before they even shot all 8 episodes or all 9 episodes, they were kind of still figuring out what it was. So this was an early on process, and that informed how they ended up doing the rest of the shoots and the series, because they were like, oh, that's like a cool thread to pull on. We can create this like kind of headspace. We're like looking into Tom's memories, and we're like going through all these like abstract sequences of things. So I think that, that's part of it too. You don't, summing it all up into a point, you don't always need to know. I think that like just engaging with a motion designer, and like even just having some empty space in your cut and saying, I don't really know what I want to do here yet, but is there something you might do here with like images or headlines or any of the devices that you might use to help tell this story? Is there anything you could do to maybe amplify this moment with us?
I love that. I feel like my mind has changed after today. So thank you. Another question I want to ask is what, out of all the projects that you've worked on, what has been the most challenging, and how have you grown from that?
I think that the most challenging project was the Serena Williams project, and not for any other reason than it was a successful first season, which was Tom Brady, and so there was already high expectations around this show. And Serena Williams, that she is Serena Williams, so there was even higher expectations set on top of it all. And so it was tough because there were just so many deliverables that we had to create, and the way that everything kind of panned out with the schedule and the edits kind of moving, and ESPN was giving a lot of feedback, and we had a lot of internal feedback. It was just tough. It was a tough time frame to kind of get it all done in, and we were able to do it, and I think we made some really great work by doing it. But what made it even more challenging was Corinne and I had our second kid right in the middle of the busiest period of it. So it was crazy because, and he was born like a week and a half, 2 weeks early, something like that. So it was like, it was crazy because it was like in the middle of the night and I was expecting to get up the next day and like kind of like kick off all this new work with my team. And I'm now at the hospital trying to manage my 4-year old while sending, emails and Slack messages with one hand over here. And what's crazy is like that day and that week, we got more done than like throughout the whole project. And somehow we were also like, we had a new kid and I was like running my 4-year old around by myself while Corinne was like at the hospital. And we are like trying to like juggle this together. It was really tough. So it was like, it was this collision of like personal and professional challenges all at once. And that was like a really big project too. Like that was much bigger than I would say like Thank You Goodnight or Enigma, because it was 8 episodes. It's this really definitive story about this really, really amazing person. And so and just like all the high expectations and everything. And how we grew from that was really just like, I think I learned a lot personally about how to juggle that workload and how I would approach it better next time. And then there's like a lot of interpersonal things too, where I'll fully admit this is like I got frustrated with different people at different times. And I don't think I said anything that I would regret or anything, but like I tended to let things like kind of get me to a point of frustration more than I usually would, just because of the stress and the pressures and the things like that. And what I learned from that was like, I don't need to do everything myself. I can delegate and I can do that better. And as a creative, like I'm sure you know this too, you often do want to do a lot. You do want to throw yourself into the work that you care about, and especially these bigger projects. So it was like a lesson in like there was just so much growth that happened there that I'd like to unpack it all would probably be a call of its own. And I have done that, I'm sure, but it's it was like it was just a really overall like pivotal moment where it was like, okay, in the future, I need to rely more on the team around me and like give them even more trust than I did. And I need to just like slow it down and realize that like even whenever it felt like there were, explosions going off all around me, I'm having a new kid, we're having a new kid and there's the busiest week of the project and all these other things, like somehow we still got it done. We got through it. And if I would have just like calmed down even more during that, I think it would have been even easier. And like, yeah, so it's a wide range of lessons, I would say, but you get through it, you figure it out.
Yeah. That's a wild ride. I can like
Yeah.
really picture it. I feel like that will definitely be a core memory for a long time. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
well, in working with streamers, is there anything that you feel like is totally different than working with like smaller companies or ad agencies or any of like your previous experience? Like you talked about kind of like crazy timelines or like how many deliverables there are. Like
Yeah.
if you're thinking about, an emerging motion designer that maybe only has done like commercials before but wants to break into, streaming, working with streamers, what could they expect, and maybe some tips or words of wisdom from you?
Yeah, this one's deep for sure. I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
things that I think there's a lot of things I'd recommend overall, but like I think that there's a certain type of people who there's a lot of them out there that I've worked with that just love doing this, and I think that it all needs to come from a place of like, to be able to do this successfully, you need to really love doing it, because there's going to be a lot of stepping into your personal time. There's like, it just is what it is. I'm not saying that it's clients or anybody being disrespectful, but just like the work needs to be good. It needs to be of a certain standard. And I'm talking technically, visually, um, the meaning that's going into it, the conversations you have with people, the way you carry yourself. It's just so much to it that you really need to truly love doing this to put yourself out there and make this happen. So working with streamers is like, um, you know, you've been invited onto the field in the NFL to play with the other players, and now you need to do your part. So it's something that you need to, I think it's like you just need to take it seriously. I wouldn't say it's actually altogether harder than working in advertising or any other aspect of being a creative professional. In some ways, I actually think it's easier. I think I've gotten more trust on projects from streamers than like a small commercial or something like that. 9 times out of 10 because they trust you. It's a different level of things. Like you are out, like I said, back to the football analogy. It's like you are out on the field. They trust you. They know you're going to do your part. So you just need to make sure you do that. And to break into that, I think it's kind of just like for me, it's always been about kind of making my own work in the style of what I want to do. So even when I was working in advertising and I did that for a long time, I was doing a lot of my own projects, like making my own small films or whatever I had to do where I could express myself in the way that I wanted to express myself to work on that stuff. So I was making what I wanted to show them that I could do. And that by proxy kind of gets you noticed, especially when you're sharing it on social. Like back when I first started doing that, it was more about Instagram, and there's been like this kind of change where people are posting a lot of that kind of stuff on LinkedIn and things like that now. And I think whatever you can do to kind of get exposure and like build a reputation around yourself being known as the person who does that kind of thing, the more likely you'll be able to break into it because somebody is going to be like somebody at some point is going to be looking for somebody who does that stuff, and they're going to think of you when you're constantly staying in mind for that type of thing. For me to break into it, I wanted to get into main titles. I wanted to get into main title design. Like when you turn on Game of Thrones or Stranger Things or something and you see the main title sequence and the awesome design and the memorability of that, I was trying to build moments like that. And that got me into a studio who did that stuff primarily and actually did some of those sequences. And then they were the ones that put me on the documentary work. And so I just started applying this thought process of like, well, what if like every graphic in a documentary looked like a main title sequence shot? Like it was lifted from that. So it felt like that level of design, like really raise the bar on it, give a visual experience with meaning across the whole thing, not just at the beginning. So that's kind of how it like grew for me, was like this organic, like merging of different things that I loved, kind of like an opportunity mixed with a passion. And so, yeah, I mean, there's no like one way to break into it, unfortunately. It's not like you just go apply for the job. It's kind of like I've been saying this a lot lately is like just go make things. Like go make things you're interested in. Get out there and just do it. Don't wait for the permission to do it. Just make something. I don't care if you think that your design or your short film or whatever isn't good. Finish it, post it, go to the next thing. Because guess what? At least you finished something. At least you're getting known for doing that. So if you want to work in motion design for documentaries, for films and things like that, start doing stuff that feels like it belongs in there. Share it, post it, find out what studios are doing it, make yourself a little reel, send it to them, introduce yourself. It might be a no at first. It might take 6 months. It might happen right away. Like, but the point is like, no one's going to hand it to you. You have to love it. You have to do it from a place of loving it. You have to do it from a place of wanting to do this kind of creatively and professionally, and just do it. So
Just do it. Yep.
yeah.
One question before we jump into the rapid fire questions.
Sure.
And I'm going to leave it as simply put as possible, but I'm happy to expand on it. What are your thoughts and like maybe boundaries around revisions?
Thoughts and boundaries around revisions. I think it just depends. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
simply put, I'll say this, especially when it comes to stuff like this. Everybody that I know who puts their foot down on revisions doesn't last very long. The people who are willing to mold the clay and work with the creatives and the directors and the showrunners to get it where it needs to be will last a long time because it's a collaborative process. It's filmmaking, it's creativity. It's not my way. You get 3 strict rounds of revisions and we're done. It's like we need to, if it's not right, it's not right. If it's close, if there's things that need to change, whatever, like you just have to be open to that process, I think. And like I would say a lot of times in our contracts, we just for the contract's sake, you'll say X amount of revisions or whatever, but like fully knowing in your mind that like when you go into it, if Netflix doesn't like it, what are you going to tell them no? Are you going to tell Aaron Rodgers or Serena Williams or John Bon Jovi? Like, are you going to tell them no, we're done with revisions? Like, that's it. The truth is no. And if you do say that, if you put your foot down and say no more, I mean, obviously there's like reasonable limitations to things, but like, you're not going to tell those kinds of people no. You're not going to tell people no if you really want to do this long term.
Right,
in my
right.
opinion, like you have to have some flexibility there.
Yeah. No, I think yeah, I appreciate the candidness because I imagine like of course the contract you have to say a specific amount, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that puts everyone else at ease like okay, like we're going to work together until it's right because
Yeah.
then you can hang your hat on it and say wow, like we did it instead of like, nickel and diming. But I'm sure there are certain cases where it's like, man, another revision.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, and
But
it's like the thing is too. I would just remind anybody who watches that and balks at what I said to remember that this is a relationship building thing, and it's a collaborative process, and you want to be the person who always has the excitement and answer to things. Like that person is always going to get invited back because they're not a roadblock. They're somebody who's helping you take your plane off. You know what I mean? It's like obviously like I said there's reasonable limitations to it, but you do want to be the person. I'm not saying you be a yes man. I'm just saying you want to be the person who brings solutions and positivity and excitement to the table. And it can get frustrating when you get endless revisions. Yeah, it for sure can, but there's ways to get around that too. It's just about being specific and having real conversations with people and just making sure that like it's clearly communicated what everybody is looking for and trying to get on the same page. And again, like when we were talking earlier about references and things like that, that's what's really helpful. I think anytime someone gives feedback, if they're like, here's a reference of what I'm thinking, like I really like X, Y, and Z about this. Do you think you can apply that? Then you have a frame of reference. What doesn't work is when someone says, I don't like it. I'll know it when I see it. Like that kind of feedback, it requires a conversation. I'll know it when I see it is like the worst feedback you can get. But if you get that feedback, you just need to be somebody who goes, if you could like show me a reference of what you mean, spend a little bit of time, then we can zero in on this a lot faster. We'll be able to make this way more like what you're thinking a lot quicker. So I think that it's just about being open and having communication and being willing to work through it with people.
I thought of one last question
Sure.
before we jump into rapid fire. Where do you recommend filmmakers look for references outside of course, like turning on Netflix and Hulu? Like,
Yeah.
where else can we find motion design like ideas?
Behance is really, really good. Like a lot of motion designers post their stuff on Behance just because it's a really great way to like host all of the different GIFs and images and different designs and things like that. That's the first place I tell people to look is Behance. Second place is honestly it's Pinterest. Pinterest has a ton of it. Hashtags on Instagram for motion design, motion graphics. Um, and then also I would say like look up studios who do it really well. Find a thread and pull on it. For example, if you really like Game of Thrones title sequence, whatever. Okay, who did that? Well, Elastic did that. Go to their website. Just look at their website and pull references from there because it's world class design. It's like the best stuff out there. And so it's kind of that. And sometimes you'll get somebody who goes, they'll send you a screenshot of one thing and then a totally different thing, and they're like, "Is there any way you can kind of merge these two things?" It's like it doesn't have to be perfect. It can just be like, I like these two things because they're fitting the vibe of what I'm going for. Is there a way we can bring them together? And that's enough for like a good motion designer, a designer, animator to kind of run with and kind of bring you ideas back and see what you think from there. Get the ball rolling on the back and forth process.
Love it, love it. Okay, rapid fire
Cool.
questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
If you weren't a motion designer, what would you be doing?
If I weren't a motion designer, I would probably, if I weren't a creative professional at all, I'd probably like do something crazy like move to Reykjavik in Iceland and open a small brewery.
I love that.
Completely off the,
Awesome.
yeah.
Last show or movie you binge watched?
Uh, I'm rewatching right now Twin Peaks because rest in peace, David Lynch. So,
Mm-hmm. Um, Unexpected documentary that you enjoyed?
Lover, Stalker, Killer. It's really, really interesting. It's like got just all these really. It felt like I was watching an original series. I was like this, but it's true. I was like, how did this happen for real? This is crazy. So, really, really good production value too. Really love the recreations and the vibe of it. It just feels like it's just got a world built around it somehow. It's good.
Nice. What is one design trend you hope never comes back?
Hmm. I just don't like Memphis corporate style stuff, like explainer videos that are just I don't know. There's like people have evolved it now, but like I don't like it. That's
Respect,
yeah.
respect. Favorite thing to do on your breaks or like day off?
Gaming. I'm a big gamer. I like gaming. I
Gaming.
like watching football, and used to be big on skateboarding, those kinds of things.
Nice. And what's one thing, whether it's like a mantra, a tool, an app, like anything that you feel like other documentary filmmakers might not know about that they could benefit from?
Gosh, I usually have a million of these. So, okay, in terms of a tool, if you're a motion designer, I really recommend people start looking at Unreal Engine just because I always get a chance to talk about this and I will. It's just so good for what it's able to do and like real-time 3D rendering. You're not waiting hours for things anymore. It's going to change everything. Like everybody talks about AI and things like that, but Unreal Engine is really actually something right now that is like I really encourage everybody to use it just because of what you can do with it with the speed. And then the mantra that I'm currently living by, there's two actually. I can't have what I want in my creative career and in my life until I help other people get where they want to be too. I feel that I need to help other people get where they want to be with what they're doing in order to be able to get that kind of back for myself. And then also the other one is just make things. Just get out there and start making things. Like I've been really living by that lately, especially in the slower times. It's like if you have an idea, just start trying to make something for it. Like even if you like wrote a script, go film one scene, find one manageable bite-sized piece of what you're wanting to do, and just go make it and put it out there for people to see. Just like think about where you want to be 5 years. If you want to be a famous director for this, that, whatever, start doing it now. Find a micro sized bit of that and just do it. Start doing it constantly. Don't wait for people to give you permission. That's what it is.
So good. Anything else that you want to add, Kennon?
No, actually, I want to do a little reverse card here on you. I want to
Sure,
ask you a
sure, sure,
question.
sure.
If you could be greenlit for anything tomorrow morning, you wake up and you have an email that says green light. What is it? I
Oh,
always
God
ask
bless.
everybody. I always want to know.
I will. Okay, I'm not gonna do anything that I'm currently working on. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
do like my pie in the sky idea,
Yep.
which is I love brunch. And so I would love to do a docu-series about how different cultures like view breakfast and brunch around the world.
Oh, that is awesome. I love that. What's
There we go.
wow, that's really cool. Where would you start?
I honestly don't even know. I feel like I mean, I don't know. You'd have to do some, it depends on how many series I'd want. I'd kind of want to do, I guess you kind of have to do a mixture of like classic and like obscure, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
or like untapped a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean, I almost don't even really want to do like American
No,
breakfast.
I
Like
mean,
I would just kind of not do that. I mean, I'm trying to think of I haven't thought about this has always been
I was gonna say you have to do the mimosa episode because Netflix will. It's just immediately I'm like they'll take it if you do that. But yeah, like there's so many that's really interesting though. Like there's a different things
yeah.
around the world for sure.
So I need to think on it more. It's
Yeah,
been it's always in there, but now I'm gonna have a better answer for you next time.
you can cut this out. But whenever we were in Iceland, we like they do this thing every morning where they eat fish oil, like a spoonful of fish oil.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff like that where it's like I wouldn't even think of that, but they do it because it promotes happiness. So it's like
Interesting.
and luck, they
There's
say.
always small little things. There's always small little things that like no one really talks about. And
Yeah,
like this is another side tangent, but I'm like basically it's the same concept, but I would love to do it in an actual restaurant. Like
yeah.
once like it basically is only a breakfast restaurant, but it's like breakfast from around the world. And like it's like a preset menu. Like I'll let's say only do like 10 different like cultures or 10 different like countries. And like it's just like breakfast around the world. And you can only choose like per country or per culture.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's a great idea. Yeah, I think it's like, so I always ask that question because I just like to know where people are trying to go with what they're doing too. And it's
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is like, I mean, you're already working in kind of the doc space, but like you have the bigger idea that you're kind of like, if you could get greenlit for it, you would, or start working towards it. Well, there you go. I mean, find one and start doing it. There you go.
I like it.
You know?
I like it. Thank you so much, Ken. And this was an
Yeah.
awesome conversation.
Yeah, I loved it. It's really, really fun.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for listening and or watching. Leave us a review. Take a screenshot of this episode. Tell us why you liked it. Share it with a friend. And we'll see you on the next one.